All right, time to preview Group E. We got Portugal, Vietnam, Netherlands, and the U.S. First, I'm going to talk about Portugal because that was the game I most recently watched. I watched their qualifier versus Cameroon, and they won that game 2-1 with a very, 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 very late penalty. I think it was a good penalty, but nonetheless, they ended up going through. And this is Portugal's first World Cup, which is great for them. And I saw some things that interested me tactically. First off, being they loved using the triangles out wide for crosses. They loved when they got into the final third of the pitch, they would have these triangles where the fullback, the winger, and then the outside midfielder would come in, and they would have these triangles. And whenever they could get the space, they would send the ball into the box. And I'm not sure how that will work versus teams in this group because Vietnam, when I watched their game versus Philippines in the Southeast Asian Cup, they play very, very, very compact in a 5-3-2. And I'm not sure if Portugal will be able to generate that same space that they did against Cameroon and other teams in qualification. And something I did find that if I was Portugal, I would be very nervous of, and if I was the Netherlands and the U.S., I would be licking at the lips about was that the fact that there was so much space in between the 6 and the 2-8s for Portugal, and you can really manipulate that space when they turn over the ball. And that happened really consistently against Cameroon, which all respect to Cameroon, of course, but Cameroon is not the U.S., they're not the Netherlands. So I think those higher quality teams will be able to take advantage of it because Cameroon did a bunch of times. So I think that'll be one of the ways in which Portugal this tournament has to be able to fix itself because if you're letting these teams, let's just say with Rose Lavelle in that space, oh, she's going to kill you. Lecky Martin's dropping in deep, getting on the ball, she is going to destroy you. So I'm not too optimistic with how Portugal are going to perform in this tournament just because they really try and like to play out of the back. And when you have teams as good as the U.S. and Netherlands, I'm not sure how effective that's going to be honest. Next up, we're going to talk about Vietnam, and now I watched one of their games against the Philippines from last year, as I said, in the Southeast Asian Cup. And I assume they're going to take the same shape in their games because they played against a good team in the Philippines who also qualified for the World Cup. And then when they played against Germany in a recent qualifier, they played in the same exact shape. So let's just assume they're going to play in that 5-3-2. I think the plan from the get-go is going to be pretty straightforward. I mean, they're going to try and bunker, especially against the U.S. and Netherlands. I mean, Portugal, they might try and do something different, but I wouldn't hold out to it. But being that they're playing the U.S. first, they're just going to try and get a point, I assume, because if they think to themselves, oh, we're just going to bunker for this game, try and get a point, that's as good of a start as you can get. Hopefully beat Portugal, maybe get lucky against the Netherlands. Who knows? But I mean, Germany, when they played them, were playing their second squad. And yeah, it was 2-1, but I mean, that's still a solid result. You're playing in Germany as well. So, although Vietnam did have a lot of supporters in the crowd, it was obviously a mostly German contingent there. But that result is not an awful one. And yeah, you can say, like, Germany wasn't playing with Pop, they were playing with Oberdorf. So, like, yeah, you should talk about that, but that wasn't a horrible result for them. And I think of all the squads they played recently, the only teams they really had bad results against were teams that were in the World Cup, like the Philippines and like Germany. So I think that's a very positive result Vietnam can take. They're also playing in their first World Cup, just like Portugal. So I think if, obviously you want to try and qualify out of the group. That's always the goal at a World Cup. But I think if they just look good on the international stage, that is a positive result. Any country in the first World Cup, like obviously, due to sad circumstances, countries, outside of Europe and North America, the women's teams have struggled more financially than like the men's teams. But I think you take even a European team playing in their first World Cup. You just want to look good on the international stage. I mean, you can apply that same logic to Portugal. They've never been here, so they just want to look like a competent team that, plays in a very sustainable way. Um, in transition, I mean, back to the X's and O's. Like, I saw a lot with Vietnam. They love having one of their center midfielders who play in the three to make those late runs into the box. They love getting the ball to their fullbacks, especially their left back on the left side, and then sending in the two strikers in the box, and then having one center mid make the late run for any second balls. And I mean, that I'm not sure how that's gonna work against a team like the U.S. when they're probably not gonna have a lot of possession, and same thing with Netherlands, but I think they should look competent. I don't think we're going to get a lot of the bad results that we've gotten in the past with some of these teams who've played their first World Cup and they played against some of the stronger teams and have sadly gotten destroyed. Now talking about the Netherlands, I think that the main thing you want to talk about when talking about the Dutch in this tournament is the lack of Vivianne Miedema, because she is just so good. I mean, we don't even need to talk about how good she is, but her being out is going to impact the Netherlands so much, especially in a tournament setting, because I think to win any good tournament, you need to have a very good number 9. In men's soccer, women's soccer, I think, part of this, you need a good 6, a good keeper, and a good striker. I mean, you need a strong spine. And when you don't have Miedema, they have Van de Donk. Still, they have their other attacking talents. But I'm not sure how the Dutch are going to do without Miedema spearheading their attack, because we know she loves dropping in. She loves getting on those passes. She adds so much to the team. She's not just a goal-scoring threat. She can start an attack herself. I mean, she loves dropping so far deep, getting on the ball, spraying the passes to the wingers, and then getting back into the box. So, I don't know. I mean, I think the Netherlands will get second in this group, but I don't think they'll go that far in this tournament just because they're missing their best player. And that's not disparaging to them. That's just the fact for the vast majority of countries. If they were missing their best player, they're not going to do how they normally want to perform. And now finally, the good old US of A. My girls, who I want to win the World Cup. But I think, the things you have to talk about the US is, just like the Netherlands, you have to talk about the injuries. No Kristen Press, no Tobin Heath, no Becky Sauerbrunn. And that's the one I think is the most important. No Mallory Pugh, because I think although Mal Pugh is playing, arguably world-class level, not arguably, I mean, I think she was maybe one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world before she went down. But I think the attacking talent with the U.S. is so strong. You have Alyssa Thompson, of course. You have Sophia Smith. You have Lynn Williams. You have Alex Morgan. You have Megan Rapinoe, of course. I mean, more there for the leadership, but she's still a great player. But you have so much attacking talent with the U.S. I mean, Sophia Smith is playing such a ridiculous level. But the problem with the U.S., I think, is the lack of Becky Sauerbrunn, because, she's the leader of the team. She's the captain, and her being out is going to be a lot of pressure on Huerta and Germa. And obviously, Germa, I mean, she's only 20 years old, so she's young. She's going to probably make some mistakes. I mean, it's her first World Cup, so that's natural for anyone, especially when she's starting. It's not like she's going to be coming off the bench. So, I mean, I think that injuries obviously are going to play a role with the U.S. I'm not worried about it with their attack, as I said. In defense, I think they are solid enough to make it work somehow. The thing tactically I'm the most worried about is the number 6 role, because, I mean, you brought Julie Ertz, you have Andy Sullivan. I think there's going to be a moment in this tournament where something happens, where Vlatko either someone gets hurt, yellow card accumulation, where Vlatko is going to need to make an important decision on who's going to play the 6, and at least starting, before they kind of shift into the 4-2-3-1-ish type thing. But he's going to have to make a decision, and I think that decision is going to define their tournament. Because as I said, with the Netherlands, I mean, them missing Miedema, your striker, your six, and your goalie are the most important things in a World Cup. And when you don't even have a decisive decision on who is going to be your six, I think that's very upsetting, and it doesn't create a lot of stability heading into the tournament. Now, obviously, Julie Ertz is coming off of that injury. And, I mean, for Angel City, she's Julie Ertz, so she's amazing. But she hasn't been the best for Angel City so far in NWSL play. And I'm not sure how that's going to impact Vlaco's decision, because with different positions, he's decided, how much NWSL play actually matters. But obviously, I mean, like with the forwards, it kind of didn't matter because Hatch isn't in. But I think against the better teams, hopefully Julie Ertz is healthy, because she gives you that ability for the other midfielders to, like Rose Lavelle, like Kirsten Mewis, like Lindsay Horan, to just play very free, because she's there covering all of that space. But I'm not sure if she'll be able to do that. So I think that's going to be the definitive decision on how far the U.S. will be able to go in this World Cup.